4, 3, 2, 1.
Welcome to the podcast with your favorite cash flow guys, Mike and Blaine, giving you the best advice while having a beer. When you're running a business, there are problems every day. Let Mike and Blaine help you out and guide your way. Cheers to the good times with Mike and Blaine for business, beer, and BS.
Hey, it's Mike and Blaine. This is episode 111. 111, we are climbing the charts. We are on our way to 200, right? It's going to be 200 by this time next year, maybe. Well, no, I guess not, because there's only 52 weeks, and we do this once a week. You can hear us on your favorite podcast station once a week, live every week on your favorite social media station or YouTube, or you can go to our website, mikeandblaine.com, where you can buy our merch. You can buy us a beer, and believe it or not, we got people that have bought us beers. We're going to talk about both of those people today. So I am Mike Mylan. I am Mike Mylan, also known as Cashflow Mike. That is my partner, Blaine Birch, the CEO and founder of Dry Run, the best cash flow forecasting tool on the planet. Hey, Blaine, what's up, man?
Man, you had a really nice run going there until you had your name come up.
Then I fat-tongued it, right? I don't know what happened.
That's all right, man. You had a nice run there. That was good. All the important stuff came out, so we're good to go. But before we start, because we're starting this now, thanks for mentioning Dry Run. If you guys are looking for something to forecast your cash flow, forecast your sales, model scenarios, and if you got a sophisticated business or you're advising sophisticated businesses, we're a really good fit for you. Come and visit us at dryrun.com. And Mike, you got to tell everyone about what you do as Cashflow Mike.
Hey, I'm Cashflow Mike, and what I do is I help accountants and bookkeepers who want to add advisory services. If you don't know where to start and you want to be able to talk to business owners, people who are not financially sophisticated, I've got tools, techniques, tricks to be able to have that conversation and, better yet, find hidden cash. So visit me at cashflowmike.com, check out the free tools, and increase your cash flow.
What are you drinking?
Hey, guess what? All right, so it goes back to people going to mikeandblaine.com and pressing the button. The button I'm talking about is the one that says buy us a beer. And what happens when you do that, you can buy beers in increments of $5, right? $5, $5, $5. And you and I are starting to treat that as, hey, that's an episode, right? $5 is an episode. We're going to talk about you. Come on. Have you ever sponsored anything? Didn't add for $5? No. Right? I don't think so. But what I've got is one of our recurring sponsors, one that's been on the show many, many, many times. It's from Wiebert Brewery, right? Wiebert Brewery, which you may or may not know, but that otherwise, the lovely name that we give him on this show is Neighbor Pat, right? Neighbor Pat's been a little upset with me because he caught me playing cornhole bags with another guy the other night. He wasn't there, so he came over here to chastise me, and he brought me a smoked Scottish ale, right? Made by Neighbor Pat. Yeah. Oh,
that's a big.
This is how much beer he thinks I can drink. I guess this is how much.
It's a good-looking beer, but that's a big jug of beer, man.
That's a big beer, right? So that's a big beer. But Neighbor Pat, and I tell you what, he's sharp. He calls out little things on the show. He sees every little detail. I can tell you that. And good call out today, Pat. Good call out.
All right. Well, thanks, Pat. And we have another beer sponsor. I'm going to tell you all about it in 1 second. Let me first tell you about the beer I got going today. And it is a zero issue out of Calgary called Smack New England IPA. And I don't know if it's a collaboration because it says Uncanny at the top, but I couldn't find anything on that. So I'm just going to say it's from Zero Issue. And for our topic today, if you're not running your funnel right, you're going to get smacked. So that's why I got this one. It has nothing to do with the fact that it's one of the last beers in my fridge before we hit sell. But that's beer I got going today. And got a new beer sponsor. And she's going to be our sponsor for, I think, 5 weeks, if I remember right. Is that right, Mike?
Yeah, that's right. She bought 5 beers, 5 weeks.
5 weeks. Rachel Barnett from Gentle Frog, brilliant bookkeeper. But what Rachel does is really, really terrific for a lot of you guys out there. Is she can help you learn how to use QuickBooks and do your bookkeeping the proper way. And we're not talking trying to turn you into an expert, trying to get you to, she'll teach you, not try. She'll teach you how to do your books the proper way, fast, easy, simple. So you're on top of your books all the time. So thank you so much, Rachel. This, I'm enjoying my zero issue beer on you today. So that's, yeah, much appreciated.
Hey, I'll jump on there because I know Rachel personally. I mean, she and I go way back actually, and her course will take you from 0 to 60 in no time at all. So if you're the person sitting out there and you want to learn QuickBooks and you think you need a little bit of help, contact Gentle Frog. Rachel, just contact Rachel directly. She will help you out. She's a QuickBooks expert and a master at helping people. So thank you, Rachel.
Yeah, gentlefrog.com.
There you go.
All right.
All right, so you kind of snuck the topic. I didn't even mention the topic yet, and you go, oh, well, here today's topic, funnel, and you get smacked. Speaking of, today's funnel is, stop being frustrated by your funnel, right? So stop, or something like that. What was it? Stop being. It wasn't stop being frustrated, was it?
Something about
that. Yeah, something about frustrating funnels. But what this came with is that, I teach that course over at Trinity University, Entrepreneurial Selling, and we was talking about funnels. And I'm like going, that'd be a really cool thing to talk about is not only creating your funnel, but managing through the steps. And, if you set it up right, you don't waste a lot of time. And we'll kind of talk about that today. But speaking of funnels, with Pat's beer, I needed a funnel to get it into this cup. So tell me about that. I mean, you and I don't know if you use funnels as much in the creative agency, like in the restaurant, didn't really care, right? We just wanted recurring business or new business. Hotel staffing, we had a little bit of funnel, but I didn't do it the same way that I did in software. So what's been your experience?
Yeah, very different experience in dry run to my past sort of creative agency days. I know a lot of creative agencies these days are doing an inbound funnel, and they have it really quite dialed in to find those clients, especially when they're going outside of their geographic area. It's really important to draw those people in. I was so early in the social media online market with the agency that it really had very little effect on us. We got our business through networking and referrals and repeat customers and all relationship building. And of course, those networks would start to go out of our geographic region and we would stretch further and further away, but it was all through a network. So with dry run, much different. We are constantly looking at our funnel and trying to understand, there's times where we've had a funnel working really well, turns out with the wrong people, and then there's times we've had the right people, but the funnel is kind of broken. And, so it's like, you have to have the combo. You got to have the right funnel, bringing in the ideal client, all the way through to the deal.
All right, so here's what I like about the concept of funnel, because I like to talk about the business as like a machine. It should run like a machine. And if you set this thing up right, then you have little levers or dials that you can twist and pull and adjust and dial it in to get it just working perfectly. And of course, it doesn't work perfectly for long because the market changes. But let's kind of define that. So when we're talking about a funnel, we're talking about, it starts off at the top. The basic marketing funnel is you got to attract, then engage, then convert, right? So attract somebody's attention, engage with them, build their trust, and then convert them to a customer. And of course, there's a customer success funnel on the bottom where you're trying to create champions and who bring back new people as referrals to the top. So, but what we're talking about is identifying the stages. And in a lot of ways, I call it the golden path. What is the one thing, those actions, those steps that you need to take, from being a prospect, which is just kind of a target, somebody out in the world that really maybe doesn't even know who you are yet, to being a lead, right? So that's kind of the first thing for me. I go from prospect, which is I've identified who my ideal customer is, and I'm trying to get their attention. And once I've got their attention, somehow they become a lead. How do you set yours up?
Essentially the same way, but there with the funnel, there's different areas that we nurture. So top of funnel, which is the real wide part of the funnel, it's a lot built on, like you said, people don't really know about you. So there's a lot of brand messaging and a lot of a little bit bigger picture benefits, like what can financial modeling do for your business? What can cash flow forecasting do for your business? And we're trying to draw people in that way. But they don't necessarily go through the top of the funnel and work their way down. Some will, but the real valuable ones are the ones that are coming in mid to low funnel right out of the gate. And so they're already probably evaluating some other cash flow tools, or they've done an active search for, I need a software that's going to help me with this, with scenario modeling, with cash forecasting. And they find us and they enter in close to a decision stage. And so it's like you've bypassed a bunch of the funnel, and then you're moving them through. And so we get people that are kind of like that top of funnel. They're probably going to take generally a longer time to move through. But when you get those ones mid or low funnel coming in, super valuable.
All right. Well, that's interesting, because I assume that once the main titles I give these stages for me is like you're a lead. Then once you really engage with me and there's a buying signal there, then you become an opportunity. And then after an opportunity, you become a deal, right? Which is, are you going to buy? And what I see in yours is, hey, you're getting people searching for you. And I think that's a lead until the point they sign up for the trial. Then they become an opportunity, which means you got a chance to sell them, to actually get money.
Yeah.
Right? And then
we got a little bit different terminology, but they either sign up for a trial or they book a meeting with us. Those are the two things, because booking a meeting with us is probably that generally leads.
That's an opportunity too. Yeah. But that's a buying signal, right? If they're going to spend time with you, that's a buying signal. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But I think what you're talking about, we view as that very low funnel, like they're sort of already coming in. I'm picturing, I guess, the bigger picture funnel of how do you draw people in to learn about you? How do you draw them to your website? How do you get enough traffic coming in so that some of those ones are going to engage with you? And then the lower in the funnel is the more purposeful they are. Like they are searching for a solution like ours already. Awesome. Like that's what we really want. But we also are nurturing that top of funnel so that people that don't even know we exist and are sitting there in a spreadsheet can discover us. But it's likely a much longer sales cycle with them than the ones that are actively searching.
Well, see, that's interesting, because I saw a stat last week when I was preparing for class, where on average across multiple industries, not just SaaS companies or whatever, but it takes 84 days to convert 13% of leads. So people that kind of visit your website or kind of engage with you some way, maybe download a lead magnet, or who knows, somehow they've heard about you. But it takes 84 days for them to convert to an opportunity, which means there's a new engagement. I'm going to take a meeting, or I'm going to sign up for a trial. That must be the decision phase. And maybe you don't see it from your point of view, because I don't know if they're just instantly going and looking, but they got to be doing something for some amount of time. What do you think?
Yeah. Well, and I think there's average it. Like those numbers they're all loaded. They're all very loaded, right? So you might say on average, they'll also say on average you need 8 to 12 touches, which means they have to kind of hear about you and see you and search and read an article and until they finally go.
Think that's true. Yeah.
Well, I think there's a lot more touches that people don't see. They're going to check reviews on you. They're going to like all of these things before they likely will come and sign up for a trial. But it also depends like what you're selling. So they can say, oh, I average is close to 90 days. But if you're a B2C, it might be like a lightning fast, like a business to consumer, a lightning fast. If it's lower cost, it could be a lightning fast decision. They might buy the first time they see you, second time they see you. If they're buying something that's a little game or something. On the other side, on the flip side, during my agency days, we were like a lightning quick was probably 60 to 90 days, but we had deals that would go on. Sometimes it would be a year to 18 months to close a deal, but I could see that. I knew it. There's no freaking 90 days when it's a really big contract with multiple stakeholders and everything else. So it doesn't really change the sales pipeline, but the timelines could be much, much longer depending on generally the deal size and what your industry is.
Yeah, I mean, well, when we were selling to banks, that sales cycle was like 9 to 12 months, because exactly. Again, there's so many other people in the buying decision, and especially if it's an IT project, right, technology project, there's a lot of prep work that goes into either making that decision or
Yeah.
planning the execution before they pull the trigger.
And the other thing is, do you like, for us, we would always look at with some of the bigger deals is a pilot a conversion? Or is it the bigger deal? Is it the conversion, or do you count them as both? You know, like a small deal at the start, a smaller amount of money, but you're looking for the much larger deal. You kind of have multiple conversions potentially in the same deal, same customer.
See, I don't consider a trip, I'll call it a tripwire product as a conversion, right? A tripwire product is an indication to me that you have more curiosity than just the average person. You've taken another step towards making a buying decision.
Mhm.
You know, I guess I'll just be transparent, because if you ever go to cashflowmike.com, you'll see it. You're like, oh, I know exactly what he's talking about. Like, I've got a free download, right? The lead magnet is the 7-minute conversation. You get that for free. Well, that's the first indication that I know, A, that you exist, right? That you're out there in the world. Somehow you found out about Cashflow Mike and you go, oh, I'll get the free book. Then you've told me that you exist. I then offer you something that you only get really a one-time offer, is a tripwire product. It's like $20. But to me, it's a test to saying, okay, well, how serious are you? Right? Is this really a problem that you're trying to solve? Would you pay $20? And if you do, well, that person becomes a warmer lead than anybody else, because they took 2 steps. They downloaded the book and they paid $20 for the video training set that goes with the book. Right. So I'm like, okay, well, and it gives them exposure to my bigger product, because part of what I'm selling them is actually in the big product.
Yeah, like, again, sometimes it's just the way you term things or view things. Like we tend to look at a number of steps in the cycle as conversions, because we want to know what the percentage of conversions are from um, like a booked meeting to continuing on to a trial, and from a
Yeah.
trial onto here, onto there. And those metrics can be really important and really useful, because you can see it's like, okay, we got a conversion rate here, conversion rate here, conversion rate here. Ultimately, the only one that matters is the sale. But we want to see at each stage, are we missing something? And we look at those, because even within our onboarding process, we've been really diving deep on this lately and going, oh, holy shit, we're stalling. We're getting too many people slowed at this point. There's a friction at this point.
Yeah.
You have to calculate those rates all the way through, because it's like, okay, they slide into here and it's like, oh man, it's a full stop. But then, here's what we have to address. And when you finally get it working, it might be like a clunky old steam engine, but at one point it's like, okay, we got it working from end to end. Now, where are the levers that we can refine to up those conversion rates at every step? And
Yeah.
because then you start going, well, then you can get to almost the top of I wouldn't say top of funnel, but when that lead comes in through to a conversion, and you can calculate and go, yeah, we know exactly, like, they come in, we know how many are, like, what percentage is going to convert, but it's because we know all the steps along and all of the rates all the way along, right?
Well, yeah, you're describing the whole reason I wanted to do this episode, which was, if you're good at identifying the steps of the buyer's journey, right, from however they come into in the top of the funnel, they saw an ad, they read a blog, clicked your link with your website, somebody told them about it, saw you at a trade show. It doesn't matter how they came in, right? All those things are just different channels. But what happens next? Everything that you're doing after you know they exist, gave you an email address or a phone number, is, I hope, to get them to do one of 2 things: start the free trial, or if they're not ready to start a free trial, jump on a call. Right? You shouldn't be asking them to do a whole bunch of other things, but those 2, right?
No, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, if you're ready, let's get started. Just jump into the product. If you have a few questions, hey, I get it. It's a big decision. Let's jump on a call and talk it through.
Yeah. And you know what? Like, we love it when people talk with us, but a lot of them want to self-serve. So we would love to talk with every single one. But sometimes it's a different order. Sometimes they'll start a trial and then they'll reach out and have a question or something, and then they're willing to go on a call with us, or vice versa. The thing that we do know is as dialed in as we try and get it, we're looking at different conversion rates at every step. We're analyzing where there's friction points, like all of these different things. It is still incredibly messy, and there are massive blind spots. And the more you try and like control it and look at every single step, you just have to finally accept at some point there's blind spots. Because like you said, when someone actually comes in and starts a trial and then they get through to a purchase, it's probably, it's only a percentage of their entire journey that could have started months ago. It could have started a year ago, could have started 50, 30, 20 days ago. Like, but there's a lot of stuff that you just can't see. You can't track. I don't care what Google says. You can't track everything they do through multiple devices and multiple entry points. And guess what? They're not clicking on your links. A lot of times they're typing it in and stuff. And it's, so there's parts where you just have to trust and you have to look at the ballpark, like the evidence that, well, if we did this, we can't point a direct line to an increase in trials or an increase in this based on, let's say, a campaign directly, but we can see that there was a lift compared to before we did the campaign. And so sometimes you just have to be able to read the tea leaves and go, yeah, that makes sense. That's probably where it came from.
Well, but the thing is, I agree that it's so nebulous or more ambiguous at the very top. But once they come into the funnel, right, they've given you the email address, then it becomes a sequence, right, that you control. You get this email on day 1, this email on day 3, this email on day 7. You control that, and you can see the drop off or the action that's taken at every single email or every single thing that goes out, right?
Yeah.
Which means if you're not getting the people to move to the next step, there's something wrong with that email. If you get them to one part of the sequence and they stop, I go right to where they stopped and say, let's look at this email or let's look at this phone call. What are we doing there that's turning people off?
Yeah, whatever. That's what, like, recently we found we have some real gaps in our onboarding process that, but once we had the data, we could go, oh, that's where they're getting confused, or that's where they're stopping. If they get past that point, well, they just kind of slide through, but there's this little wall there. And so you need data. Like, you have to have data. You have to track all of the different stages. Like I said, like you said, as soon as they enter and they're giving you something, they've signed up, they give you email, something, you can track them better. And knowing what's happening at every stage is massively helpful, knowing the data at every stage. But there's this qualitative analysis that has to go on too, because people don't follow, like they just don't follow the guidelines the way you want, right? Mm-hmm. They're the ones that walk into the back into the kitchen or whatever. Like, it's just they do weird stuff sometimes, and it's customers and get some of that qualitative feedback and observations, and you can mix that in with your just straight up data. The better off you'll be, because the data can tell you what's happening. It may not be able to tell you why.
Yeah. Well, that's why I call it the golden path, because that's the one that you're most, you think is most successful, and you're trying to drive everybody towards those actions. Yep. But like you said, people just find a different way in. They're like, wait a second, I didn't leave that door open. How'd you come in here? Right? So I agree with that. What the thing about that I like is you can point to. Oh, so here's an interesting story, right? So I'm teaching now college students, and you got to realize by the time they get to me, I mean, this they're already juniors or getting ready to graduate in the next year, and so they've already had some financial analysis, or they've done some accounting, they've done some managerial accounting, and when I explained the funnel last night, Wednesday night, when I explained it and how to manage the funnel by percentages and knowing how much an ad spend should be, because I need so many website visitors to get this many trials, to get this many customers, right? And I was connecting it back to your forecast, your cash flow forecast. And I was connecting the ad spend to the visitors to the forecast, the revenue cycle. Mm-hmm. And they go, what? It was like I had opened up the whole world to them, because they always looked at these things as silos. Like, oh no, accounting is over here and sales and marketing is over here, but they never the two shall meet. And I'm like going, no, it has to meet, right? Because everything has to work in harmony. You have to be able to say, I expect to get this much in revenue because this is how my funnel actually works. This is what happens.
Yeah. Yeah. And there are differences in the way you have your funnel. Like, so back in the agency days, and what we see a lot of our customers doing today, they're tracking individual deals, one-off deals, generally larger deals. They're tagging probably an estimated closing rate, and building out the funnel that way. But for dry run, exactly what you're saying is like, I'll have my baseline scenario, and then I'll have, it's not like then I have a couple of growth scenarios. Like, I'll have multiple scenarios, all based on really, like what you're saying is on depends what I want to look at, but it's generally the conversion rate, but it's tied to different channels, different pricing, different, like so you're looking at trying to figure out which channels, like this channel, maybe it converts a little bit lower rate, but the price is actually quite a bit more of a premium price. Where does that cross, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
What numbers are you going to get from one channel versus another? One of them is going to have a much quicker conversion, one of them will have a longer conversion but might be worth more money. Like, and so like, I'll lay all of these things out, and so I have an idea what's happening, but I can also talk with the team and go, here's where I think we maybe need to focus, or here's, maybe we don't ignore one of them, but maybe we double down over here because this channel has a bit of magic compared to this other one, right? You tying that to cash flow and your sales projections and your revenue projections, how your company grows, is so essential, because otherwise you're just looking at things in isolation. It's like, oh, this one converts at 5%, 10%. This one converts at 12%. No, that you got to tie that to money, and it's going to help figure out what makes sense.
So once my lead flow was more consistent, right, at Cash Flow Mike, I had X number of leads kind of coming in per day. I'm like, all right, well, now let's start messing with price, right? Because I started off real low, like all startups do, and I just gradually kept increasing it until I saw a significant drop off in conversions and signups. So then I backed it off. Signups came up, but not at the same rate that they did at the lowest price, but I made more money. I was doing less work, selling less, we'll say courses, but I was making more money, more revenue into the company. So I'm like, I think I'm okay. I think I found that spot, because when it was lower price, I had more people, more headaches, and more support, and more things like that. Yeah. So I've kind of found that, like, okay, this is about the amount of people I can handle, from a support wise, and be really engaged in the community, and make the money that I'm looking for.
Yeah, it's yeah, and that's another thing. Like we would look at the pricing, the how many units you're going to sell, also an estimated costs related to it. Exactly what you're saying, because there's all those other factors where some just kind of slide through and it's basically self-serve from end to end for the most part, and other ones just take more work, and which accounts also have potential to expand and to grow. It gets complicated, but that's where you need that cold hard truth of what is actually serving our business, what is growing. And there's, like, pricing is another whole area. We could spend an entire episode on pricing. There is that magic number there where, like you said, it's like you sell fewer units, but this is the most profitable. This is the biggest sales. And the other thing that startups, I'll say, like, over and over again, when you start too low with a lot of businesses, what you'll find is you're actually hurting your sales, because customers will look at you and they're going to make an assumption. Are you for them? Are you? And if you're priced too low, you could send signals that you're not for them, even though they're your ideal customer. So the pricing isn't all about the dive to the bottom. That can actually sometimes be massively detrimental to your growth.
Well, yeah, because they're like, it's not gonna. If it's that cheap, it's probably not gonna be good, right? So it's the good, fast, and cheap. You can be two of the three. You can't be three. Be good and fast, not cheap. You can be fast and cheap, but not good.
Well, I guarantee you, like in my agency days, I'm sure there were, with a lot of the quotes we put in, I'm sure that they got quotes for they claim the exact same thing for probably a fraction of the price we were doing. And we're getting the deal over and over again because they trust us. And honestly, when the competitor came in too low, it actually helped us even more, because it built more confidence in us that, like, why are these guys charging 5 times as much? there's got to be a reason, right? And there's just those subtle things can make a really big difference. If they'd come in 10% less than us, they probably would have had a better chance of upending us than coming in at 20% of the entire, like 80% less. They'd probably have a better chance being just around our pricing than being substantially lower, because they'll lose trust, they'll lose faith in them.
Hey, talking about gaining trust and gaining faith in a cash flow forecasting software product, why don't you tell us about Dry Run?
Oh, that's a nice little segue there. That's beautiful.
That's one of my favorite things to do to you. Just gotta segue into it,
Sneak
right?
it
Because
in.
it's an odd episode, right? You're the oddball, so it's an odd episode.
Yeah, no, I'm going to tell you who we're for first, because I always forget to sort of do that. But we have business owners that are coming in and using us, generally businesses that are over $1 million revenue, just to give you an idea, because everyone can use us, but tends to be established businesses, multi-million-dollar businesses, business owner, internal finance, or CAS, client advisory services. If you are a CPA offering advisory services, we help you serve those businesses that have some really challenging cash flow forecasting needs. But we aren't just cash flow forecasting. It's something that's very different about Dry Run. We do a lot of automation, but we have unmatched control to keep you out of a spreadsheet. And the biggest reason why is because we know that your sales pipeline that we're talking about today, this is what the whole topic is about, your sales pipeline, is tomorrow's cash flow. You can model that sales pipeline in Dry Run alongside your cash flow, alongside your ARAP, and you can model scenarios to figure out, how should I price? Who should I go after? What do I do? It's that's the power you need to make really smart decisions on your business. You can't be looking at things in isolation. You have to have that single line of sight of all of these, what seemingly are disconnected properties. Like you mentioned, these students, right? They think it's disconnected till they see it in black and white.
Yeah, what I like about what you're doing is the scenario builders, right? Which is, I can say, well, what if I hire a CFO? What if we get this big contract? What if I lose a different contract, right? I can create those scenarios and then overlay them on what is actually happening, or the budget that's right now. So I can see, visually, what the difference could be, right? In cash flow or in expenses or in revenue.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, absolutely. So come talk with us at dryrun.com. We'd love to get you started, talk with you, get you started on a free trial.
Yeah. All right. So I want to spend kind of the next part of this episode. I got the funnel, right? You're moving people down through. I'll tell you the other stat that I heard is, I told you from lead to opportunity, right? Then there's the big one is from opportunity, which means you got a chance to get them to become a customer, to deal, right? Or sale, or whatever we want to call it. But that number actually gets better. Once somebody becomes a lead to an opportunity, that's 84 days. The average that I looked at was 18 days. 18 days from an opportunity to become a customer, right? And it's only about 6% though. The national average is like 6%. So if you have 100 people come in at the opportunity, you got 100 sales meetings, you got 100 trials. Only about 6 of those on average across the country are converting to the customer. And it's always our goal to be at 10, 20, 30, 40, somewhere higher than that.
Yeah.
But what I was going to say is that I think those numbers are dependent on the channels you choose from the beginning. And I think we would both agree that, it always starts at the top with referrals. Your best channel to convert is always always a referral. It's like 84% of folks that come in as a referral or know a friend that's using, we'll say, Dry Run, become a Dry Run customer. It's just a crazy, it's so much better than any other channel out there. Is that your experience?
Yeah. Referrals are ultra valuable repeat customers. Back in my agency days, but sometimes even with Dry Run, we've had customers that have sold their business and then they start new business and come right back. And that makes a really big difference too. So, but referrals are massively important, but they can be limited in number and hard to get, right? So you still, you can't rely exclusively, you got to nurture them, but you have to figure out a way to get a repeatable engine that brings in new. And this is where it's like you go from lead to opportunity, we go from prospect to lead. So it's kind of it's just different verbiage, but it's the same sort of thing, right? And it's like I said, it's sometimes messier too, because you're trying to nurture and bring a lot of people in the top of the funnel, but you're also trying to have those ones that are lower funnel find you when they're really almost down to the decision. They're researching. They're like, we're out to buy.
Mhm.
They're not seeing the commercial for the car that's like, oh, that looks kind of nice, but I hadn't even considered buying a car. It's like, no, they're going from
Yeah.
dealership to dealership, and they're test driving, and you want to be one of the ones that they're going to test drive, and then you've got to knock it out of the park with them, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So, all right, so when I grew the hotel staffing company, it was 67% referrals. And what's good about that is that your marketing cost comes down, your sales cost comes down. Now what's funny about the subscription-based businesses like a dry run or like other folks that do a recurring type of revenue stream, it's only the main revenue source for a certain amount of time, which means your growth or your revenue from new subscribers outpaces old subscribers until a certain point in time. And it's almost like the tipping point. It's when the base of old subscribers, the revenue coming from them is larger than new business. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. Yeah.
And when in mature businesses, and the reason I said that, probably said it clumsily, in a mature SaaS company, a recurring revenue company, it's like 70% of all revenue comes from current customers and only 30% comes from new growth, right? So it's like a weird flip that happens in these companies where early on, it's all about new. And that's why that whole customer success job function or company function came into play, because you didn't want people to go out the back door, right? And what they call churn. So you spend all this time, money, and energy getting them in, and you didn't want them to quit.
Yeah. And the magic, the absolute magic sort of unicorn in SaaS is having negative churn, where your upgrades and your increases in sales with existing customers actually revenue wise outpaces your loss of revenue from people that are canceling. Now that doesn't, that's, like I think you also have to be really careful when you look at all these stats with a grain of salt, because businesses can be so different. And so even when you're talking as a SaaS company, if you're a $20 a month product, you'll probably have a lightning fast conversion cycle, like a sales cycle. But you also likely have much higher churn. It's just much more flippant. People come and go. If you're at a 20,000 a year product, your conversion may be lower, or maybe they have to go through different hoops to get through, but you're likely to keep them longer. And those are the companies that probably have a better opportunity for that negative churn, where they're actually can offer upgrades and sales within like new product, new features, and you can sort of build those sales up, right?
What's funny is that from my experience, the lower the price on the subscription, the more automation you got to have. You can't be touching these people,
Absolutely.
right? It's got to be self-serve, or you're going to go into the graveyard as a company pretty fast.
Yeah, absolutely. And we've fallen into a bit of that trap too, where we had spending too much money and too much time. And fortunately, what we found is our clients actually prefer to do it themselves. So it's like, it kind of worked out good for us. It's like, I'll pay more and I don't want to talk with you. And like, well, I really do want to talk with you, but I shouldn't complain too much if you're going to do it that way.
You mentioned another channel that doesn't get enough credit, and it's called sales generated, which means it's money coming from your current customers, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's the upgrades, it's the
Increase.
add-ons, it's the extras. We don't, some companies will dedicate a whole section of their sales team just to that.
Oh,
right.
yeah,
And your job is just to build the relationship and get them to know what's next. Even in my company right now, people are hungry for what's next. Like, I mean, when are you having another master class? When are you going to do this? And they're like going, it's like you have to be prepared to keep supporting your customers with new and enhanced things if they're already a champion. You've got to give them the next step. You've got to give them a little bit more and build upon the success you've already had.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's but like even from our perspective, it has to be timed right though too, because it takes a lot of resources to find those other opportunities. But like I said, it is literally the golden unicorn. Um, you know, I don't even, I hate to even just bring up the Silicon Valley thing, but that is what, like, if you go in and it's like, yeah, we're growing at X% a year and have negative churn, everybody wants a piece of you, right?
Yeah.
Um, and but that's you, and some companies have such a natural um way to do that, like their service offerings, it makes sense. They can add things on. They have these opportunities. Some it's actually more of a challenge to find those opportunities, but it is something to always keep in mind. And especially once you're established, how do we how do we earn more out of our existing customers? And and when I say that, don't do what like I've seen QBO and Zero. Well, QBO I know because I got the bloody letters. Like, no, we're increasing your price for no reason at all.
Yeah.
And it's like I know inflation and stuff, but I'm like, yeah, we're the business suffering from inflation. Why don't you guys actually like hold your horses a little bit before you start jacking the prices up? Because I don't get any more value. But when if a business comes and says, hey, here's all this additional value, would you like to spend more? Yeah, maybe I'll spend more then, right?
Well, what's interesting is that Intuit didn't I don't think they realized that they are price setters. And here's what I mean by that. They just offered a service last year for a tax return for $1,500, right? We'll
Yep.
do your tax return for $1,500.
Yep.
If you're an accountant or bookkeeper or anybody like that out there right now, and Larry Weinstein's the one that clued me into this, which is why would you ever charge less than $1,500? Why would you do a $300 or $400 tax return if the king of small business accounting is doing $1,500 ones?
Yeah, but you're also
And
looking
outsourcing it, right?
Yeah, but you're also looking like on, I don't know how many companies are doing $300 tax returns, but I would also flip it on its head. Is the ones that are charging 4 or 5,000 for a tax return may have some significant pricing pressure. Now I guarantee they're likely doing something more sophisticated, but honestly, if I'm a CPA today, one of the greatest threats to my livelihood is the Intuits of the world. I'm not pointing specifically at Intuit, but they are seeing an opportunity to sell those services, and they're using automation, they're using AI, and it still keeps coming back to the profession needs to move to offering client advisory services where they're offering much more value to their clients and they're helping them make decisions. And because if it just comes down to bookkeeping, filing your tax return, you can see that Intuit already wants your customers. Like they're making they're not hiding that fact, right?
Yeah, I mean, they are notorious for eating their young. I mean, now it's bookkeepers and accountants. They're actual customers, so it's really weird. All right, so I want to go back to like we were talking about referrals and customer increases and sales generated channels. Now I lost my train of thought. There was something about that never happens. What the hell just happened? You took a different direction. You said something and I missed it. Well, all right. So with referrals, all right. Oh, I know what he said. I heard this today. I want to see if you agreed with it or not because I want to push against it a little bit. I don't know if I agree with it. The best time to ask for a referral is when a customer gives you a compliment. What do you think about that?
I don't know if it's the best time. I think it's a good time.
I think it's delicate. It seems delicate to me, like going, hey, you just paid me a compliment. I go, oh, by the way, who else do you know that would want to be awesome like you?
Yeah, I think what you're looking for is a signal that they're really happy, which means they're likely to offer a referral. I think a potentially a good time. It is a delicate thing. Potentially a good time is when you actually have closed a deal. Like they're happy with you and they're like, yeah, I bought it and I'm excited to get going and everything. And hey, glad you're excited to get going. You know, is there anyone like you that you think could also benefit? Right. But just out of the blue is more dangerous, I think, to if you really don't, you have to be talking with your customers and really have to understand that. And again, it all comes down to relationships. Even in a SaaS company like ours, there's still relationships. People are buying from people, right?
I mean, I ask, right? I asked during the group coaching calls. I'm like, hey, by the way, I got a new group coming up, new group getting started. If you know somebody, that's kind of how I do it, uh, rather than just asking somebody, point blank, because it's triggered the moment. Like, it feels weird to me if you give me a compliment, and probably from my old school training, I'm just supposed to say thank you. Just, hey, thank you.
Well,
not asking for something else on top of it.
I think it might be like, if you're not quite that literal, it's like, hey man, I love your software. Great. Can you refer someone? Is probably not the way I would do it. Probably a little more subtle than that, a little more
That's what I
delicate.
mean. It's delicate.
Yeah, you have to
Yeah.
be a little more delicate. But the timing of the idea of when they're sending some signals that they're really thrilled and you're top of mind, right?
Yeah.
That's a good time to work it into a conversation. So like with the agency days, it would be much more, you're coming to the end of a project and it's worked out really well and the customer is really happy and you're taking them for lunch or whatever, dinner or whatever, and you're talking and it might be like, yeah, no, it worked out really well, and oh yeah, we got some more work we think coming in the spring, and da da da, and it's like, hey, do you know anyone, like that, you kind of, it works into the conversation naturally.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
With like a SaaS company like ours, it's not, it's not, it's a little bit trickier to be subtle, because it's like you're not going for a beer with somebody. You're not like, it's
Yeah.
sometimes you are, but not very often. Mostly you still have to work it into the conversation. But I would say is that you see the signal, and then what that does is it doesn't trigger you to ask for a referral or send them an email asking for a referral. But what it does is like, check mark, okay, let's keep this conversation kind of going, and let's kind of slip that in because we got the signal. Maybe it's a couple days later, maybe it's whatever, but you've got the
Right.
signal that they're really excited about you and you're top of mind. And that's a good time to ask, not just for a referral, but also for a review. Like for us, for a software company, we always forget too often, but it's a good time to ask
Yeah.
for a review, right?
Well, what's funny is that I'm a little embarrassed to say this, but I have a customer base now that kind of pulls me through that. They go, hey, do you want me to give you a review? Hey, you want me to video a testimonial? Hey, you want me calling my 5 friends or talk on my webinar? It's like they're pulling me through this process rather than the other way around.
Yep.
And I don't know what that's, I feel embarrassed that they're doing that, right? I feel embarrassed. I'm like, I should be kind of out in front of this, that lead my own brand and asking my own things. But at the same time, I'm going,
Just be happy.
oh my God,
that's great.
they are becoming champions. And it came out of service. It came out of my commitment to the service created a champion. And I didn't try to pounce on it immediately.
Yeah, no, I think that's the ideal, absolutely the ideal thing. And it's that's the best way to get testimonials and people getting referrals and everything, is just because they're really happy. We had a referral not too long ago. Of course, we never asked for it. It's just suddenly just somebody reached out, or I think maybe they introduced us over email, and they're like, yeah, like this has got, that is ideal because we didn't ask for it. We forget to ask for it anyway. And so to have somebody come in and be really happy with the product and be, and going out of their way to tell somebody about it is really great.
Hey, can I throw some bullshit in here?
Always.
Only because I talked to somebody and it popped in my head just randomly because I'm talking about champions and things like that. Yeah. I've got I'll say friend. I got a friend. Yeah, she's a client, but she's a friend well before she was a client. Yeah. Really cool name for her business. It's called No Hassle Bookkeeping, right? And her last name is No, right? Her name is Kimberly No, N-O-H. So it's kind of, no hassle bookkeeping. That's kind of clever. Well, she's preparing today to head to Ireland next week, right? For a vacation, Ireland and Scotland. And she's going on a big tour, right?
Nice.
8 days in both countries. Yep. She showed me something that I didn't know that I think everybody on this podcast should know if you like beer. In the cans of Guinness, right? In the cans of Guinness, there's a little ball that kind of, I don't know what it does to the nitrogen-based carbonation, but it does something to the Guinness in the can. Yeah. You know what I'm talking about?
Oh, yeah. I've literally cut the can open in the bar to pull the little widget out and look at it. So, yeah.
Yeah. Well, if you're ever going to Ireland, start collecting those because there's some private tour you get. You bring 100 of those balls to the brewery, and there's some type of private tour you get with
Oh, really?
massive amounts of beer and all. I mean, it's like a VIP treatment thing of just bringing 100 of these into the brewery.
Oh, really? That's a
Yeah.
big
Well, I mean,
bag.
they probably recycle them.
Yeah. I don't think I want to try and take those TSA getting on the plane. What the hell are these?
She has them in gallon bags. I'm sure people. I didn't know what happened, and I said, "What happens if you buy them in the bottle? Well, if you buy the bottle, you get the widget." She goes, "Total Wine and More, or one of the liquor stores here in Texas, or actually kind of across the South, maybe even more. It might be nationwide. If you take the bottle or bottle cap into these liquor stores, they will trade you like 2 for 1, the bottle for the can."
Oh, really?
Right? So,
interesting.
yeah. I mean, in the widget, you give them like 2 bottle caps or something like that. They'll give you one of the balls. Yeah, but she's collected 100 of these things, for her and her husband to go and do this brewery tour. I'm like going, I'd never heard of that before. That's like, the part of the world I hadn't thought about, right? It's not like I'm going over there tomorrow anyway, but
it's man, I had no idea. That's just kind of a really fun thing. Although as soon as you said Scotland and Ireland, I gotta admit, I wasn't thinking Guinness. I was thinking Scotch. And
she says she's a little afraid of it. She's a little afraid of the Scotch tour, so they're going to do beers.
Yeah, I think a Scotch tour would be really fun, and in fact, we for my father-in-law's birthday earlier, like in the summer here, we had heard from a family member like a little bit about where in Scotland his grandpas and all the brothers and everything all came from a town in Scotland, and so we went and we found a bottle of Scotch that was from the area, was just a few miles away from that place. And but we also found one that was a very short run bottle of Scotch, and it was all the grain was actually grown on one piece of property in the area owned by the distillery, because usually they'll buy their grain from all over the place, and it's like a single source of grain made the Scotch. So it's this really like kind of a fun little story. And now I want to go check out the town, because I was doing all this research around the town. Like now I want to go check out the town and some of the distilleries around there.
All right. So you know how your taste buds change like throughout your life? Things that you liked as a kid, you don't like as an adult, and vice versa. It kind of it changes. Like things are too sweet for me now that maybe I, like Big Red soda, drank that as a kid, no problem. Now I'm like, oh, I can't. Oh, that's crazy.
Any soda anymore.
Yeah, like horseradish as a kid, no way. Horseradish today, put on everything.
Awesome.
Right? Yeah. All right. So when you think about that, I don't think my Scotch buds are in yet. They haven't evolved in my mouth, because it's like too earthy, like too peaty or something like that, where I'm like going, it's a little, I'll drink it every once in a while, but man, it's just a little too earthy for me. It's like dirt.
Well, you're getting too peaty of a Scotch, right? Like, so there's Scotches from the Highlands that almost virtually no peat, and it's very smooth and a very different flavor. And then there's some that are more peaty. And then it was funny because my father-in-law, we were over the other night, and we bought him a bottle of Scotch. We've got. It's not like we just buy him Scotch every time, but we bought him a bottle of Scotch. I think it was maybe last Christmas, and he likes a little bit of peat. But I made the mistake, and when I went into the shop and asked about, hey, what would be really interesting? It's got a little bit of peat to it. Well, apparently the guy took that way too far, and it's like, this is like chewing on a piece of leather. It is so peaty, and it's quite hilarious. So he makes a comment about it. But I see the bottle going down, so he's not complaining that much. It's a nice Scotch.
They give you a little Tupperware full of dirt and says, when you open the bottle, just put this dirt in it.
Yeah, I don't mind a little bit of peat actually myself, but I have limits as well. But there are Scotches that have no peat that you would probably really like. So
yeah, but that's why you always see older people drinking Scotch, right? It's because their Scotch buds are in. Mine just haven't come in yet. It's like I'm a late bloomer, right? I'm still on the sweet bourbons.
I don't mind a good bourbon, especially an old fashioned. I still I don't make the best ones, but I do my best,
All right, so who was your sponsor today? Let's go ahead and give them another plug while we kind of close out the show.
Yeah, beer sponsor Rachel Barnett from Gentle Frog. Definitely go and check gentlefrog.com. She's got some great courses. She will get you from 0 to 60, like Mike said, in your QBO use. And it's going to be, it's going to make sense. It's going to be clear. It's going to be easy and really get you going. And I'm going to pass it over to you to talk about Neighbor Pat.
Of course, Neighbor Pat. Look, just for the record, look, I didn't drink the whole pitcher during this show. But, Neighbor Pat brought me the Scottish ale, right? The smoked Scottish ale. It's really good. So Neighbor Pat once again came through. He has been our biggest sponsor.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
I think he is the biggest sponsor. Yeah. So we would almost have to rename the show Mike and Blaine, powered by, Neighbor Pat.
Well, and the good thing is, going back to some of our beer sponsors, I don't know if we could go back far enough, because I think we have had uninterrupted beer sponsors for maybe 30, 40 weeks now. It's been going for quite a long time. And we just finished the beer sponsors from about a week ago. I finished like 8 weeks of beer sponsors, and we just started up another couple. So it's really cool. I want to see how far we can keep this going.
Hey, speaking of, if you want to be in the queue, right? Be in the queue. Matter of fact, if you did it anyway, if you just said, okay, I just heard this episode and I want to sponsor, hey, I'm okay with talking about 2 people. What do you think? I talk about 2 people.
For sure. But you know what we have not had yet? Or am I wrong? Maybe we did, but we only had once to date, was a brewery.
I had one.
Buy us beer and tell us what your brewery is, or send us beer, and for literally $5 a pop for an episode, we're going to mention your brewery, because we mention them anyway. We mention our favorite breweries anyway. You could be the featured brewery. So if you guys know a brewery out there, this is like the cheapest way to get some little bit of airtime. Definitely have them sponsors. Hey,
Neighbor Breger brought in Rough House Brewery.
You're right. Rough House Brewery. Yeah. That was the last time we had those brewery. It was easy pickings. So you guys, this is not a tall order. We're not asking for thousands of bucks. Like, buy us some beer and we'll talk about you, because we love supporting small independent breweries, and we do it anyway. So you might as well get in line and get your name out there.
All right. So episode 111 is in the books. If you want to sponsor, go to mikeandblaine.com. Just click that button that says buy us a beer. And it's in $5 increments. I mean, maybe you got $5. You can be next on our list. Maybe you got $10. You can be even next on our list too.
Yeah, absolutely. Or just literally text us. Because honestly, we've had sponsors that just like literally sent us a text message or dropped us an email. Yeah. Whatever. We're happy to get you going. So thanks for listening, guys. And we'll 112 next week.
112. All right. We'll see you next time.